Well, good morning and welcome to Furious Driving. And here in Kent, certainly in this part of Kent, we are having the first snow that we have seen all year. I've been seeing tons of snow and interesting weather on the rest of the country's news, but nothing down in the southeast. So this is quite exciting. And so obviously I've had to come out for a drive, and it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be honest. But why am I out in the modern car when surely the Volvo, the King of Sweden, should be on the road? Well, there's two reasons. The King of Sweden currently has the cheapest, nastiest rear tyres on it, and I don't think it'd actually get off the drive because it's a surprisingly steep slope, my driveway. And secondly, it's not been undersealed. I've not rust-proofed the chassis of it, and because they'll have gritted like crazy last night, I don't want to be driving that car out in the diluted salt, which would be really doing it no favours at all. So I'm out in the Mercedes, partly because it's a modern car, so it's decently rust-proofed, and more to the point, it's got winter tyres on it, so I can drive with impunity. Because the old debate 4x4 versus winter tyres, it has a very easy answer. Winter tyres. 4x4 may start you off more easily, but it will not stop you, it will not help you turn. I did a video about this about 2 years ago. I'll put a link to it right now. There's also in the link in the description. It was a four-wheel drive kind of jacked up estate versus a Mini Cooper on Michelin cross climates, and it was not a good result for the 4x4 because it just shows the fallacy of SUVs, because it just reversed sideways up the drive. It wouldn't move at all, whereas this the Mini front-wheel drive cross climates, it was just pootling along perfectly happily. And likewise, this car, the Mercedes, rear-wheel drive, but it's got a set of not even particularly known brand. I think they're like General Grabbers, which I think are quite good off-road tyres, better known in America than they are over here. But yeah, fine. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point is, it's been chucking the rain on and off most of the week. They've been salting like crazy because it's been so cold. They've been forecasting snow every weekend for a month, and it's finally happened. And that means that going for a drive in someone's interesting classic car, or even their nice car of a modern age, isn't particularly conducive to good results, either because I don't want to take the car out and ruin it, or because it's too miserable to go and film in. So I'm a bit short on goes for a drives at the moment, but it does seem like an opportunity to talk about something I've been meaning to for ages. How do the go for a drive videos actually happen? What's behind the scenes in them? So you may think, when you see a goes for a drive video and I pop up next to a car parked somewhere and start spouting information, that I can just do this off the top of a hat. I realise I am a super genius, that goes without saying, obviously, but it's not as easy as that. But that really is kind of the midpoint of the whole exercise. We're a fairly long way into the whole process by that time. It all starts a long time before. First of all, got to find the cars, and people do actually ask me sometimes on social media, the live chats, that kind of stuff, how do I find the cars? Well, there's a variety of ways. Quite often, in better times, people offer me cars to drive, and I say yes because they've got interesting cars I would like to drive. I'll come back to this in a second. Sometimes I'll see cars on Facebook, social media, out and about in car parks, and I'll just go and ask, can I drive your car? Remember the Ford Taurus? I saw that on Facebook. And there are various other cars I've found that way as well. It's got to be beersted. But of course, a lot of what you've seen lately is dealer cars, places like Stone Cold Classics, KGF, Sussex Classics. And the reason for that is partly, well, there's a number of reasons actually, really. First of all, at the moment, we're in a pandemic. I can leave the house to go to work to go and film a video, but going out to meet other people is a bit shaky ground. If I come to your house, I know where I'm going to go straight from the house. That's not so bad. So for example, that Volkswagen Beetle, it belongs to a family member, so I could go around there, take the keys cleanly, and drive off to places I knew. That was not a big deal. If I'm trying to drive across a couple of counties to someone else's car, to an area I don't know, ordinarily, if you live on like a housing estate kind of thing, or in the middle of a town, I might ask you to come and meet me somewhere, have a coffee while I film it. Then I'm not sort of filming in a housing estate, because driving a car around town is just a terrible video. So at the moment, that kind of thing is very much off. So I go into a dealership, or a classic car dealer, that person is also at work as well. So we are both at work, we're both allowed to be out, and it's promoting their business. They're happy for me to take the car out because, you know, puts their stock out there, which is great for them, good for me. So at the moment, I've got a massive list of cars that people have offered me, but I'm really kind of limited in what I'm actually shooting because it's just tricky to do it. So that's step one, find the car, then agree a date to go and shoot it, and then try and find a location. That's all stage one. Then before I get into the car, the next bit happens indoors. It happens here. Yes, this is the bookcase you may have seen behind many live chats. This is a library of car stuff. I've also got lots of old magazines, I've got car brochures in the attic, and of course I'll spend a lot of time on the internet. Wikipedia is just one obvious one, but then car owners clubs, I'll research old articles. And some people, I think Ian from Hubnut actually said he doesn't like to read old articles because it colours his, or might colour his perception of a car, but I do like to read articles because I want to know what people thought of it at the time and how it sort of stands up in terms of relevance today. I try not to parrot or repeat anything that other people have said in the past, but if it still is something that's relevant, I might not notice something if it's a small minor detail because I'm only with the car for like an hour or two at the most, so I might not notice everything. So reading the brochure or an old article might actually point out some things I might have otherwise missed, because yeah, I do fill a couple of pages of notebooks before I go and look at a car. So when people say, oh, you clearly didn't research that, I have to take issue with that because I clearly did research that, but I'm only as good as my actual research. So if I've looked on 3 websites and they've all said the 0 to 60 is 12 seconds, then I'm going to agree that the 0 to 60 is 12 seconds. If someone who owns one of the cars says actually no, it's 10, I've got no way of disputing that because that's what the internet told me. Sometimes information is very scarce, but I do try and go for more than one source. That's the main thing. If you're doing any kind of research, you always go for as many sources as possible. 3 is the safe number. If you get 3 websites saying the same thing, you're generally okay. But you need to be careful that not all the other websites you find are referring back to the first one you also found, because that can happen. Okay, so I've got the car, I've got the research, and now what's the next bit? Well, I've got to stand in front of it and talk, and believe me, I'm rubbish at that. Right, so this is the kind of thing I'm generally looking for when I'm filming a car. I want a big empty car park with no one overlooking it, no one can be making loud noises in the background doing work and stuff. So I can go into a big empty car park just like this, and there's a Vets next to us that'll be open. But so this is winter tyres. I'm just demonstrating winter tyres in action by mistake. Going a big loop in a car park. It thinks the car parking sensors are on, but if I boot the throttle now, it's not going to do a donut. It's just going to drive in a circle because it's got winter tyres, and winter tyres are awesome. Now let's pull up over here. I can't do a handbrake. Oh, it's a little bit slippery there, but generally it's driving in a circle. I'm drifting a bit now because I'm on quite thick snow. There we go. Let's put the car to a halt, stick the camera on a tripod, and go and talk about stuff. This is the part of the video where I say this is a Mercedes 2010 S204 Estate. Now this is where I try and get as many of the facts out as possible because I've got the notebook to refer to. It's not scripted, but it is bullet pointed. I've spent a lot of time trying to make an order that will flow nicely when you watch the video back. And as with it is today, it's very windy, so you might be getting a bit of rustling on the microphone, which is never fun. So then I will climb into the car and talk you through the interior. I'm getting back in the car now. Now, having talked about as many different aspects of the car's exterior design, because I'm fascinated by car design as much as the performance, it's the aspects of the social situation of it, the design of it, the way it looks, the way it was thought of and conceived. That's all much more fascinating than the performance of the car, but I do enjoy driving them as well, so we will take the car on the road in a minute. But now we come to the interior walk around, because this is the bit of the car you interact with. This is, if you're going to buy one of these cars and be in one, this is kind of the most important part really, because even if you're in a traffic jam going 2 miles an hour, you're still touching the steering wheel, looking at speedo, touching the window switches. This is all essential stuff. Now, until recently, I was putting the camera in a slightly similar position to what you're in right now, although it's looking a bit more dashboardy, looking through the window, and I would spend a long time cutting little cutaway details of every single item on the dashboard. And some people didn't like that because it meant that I was cutting to and from things quite a lot. I did quite like that because it broke up the flow a little bit nicely. But what I have discovered though is my new method of doing it is to talk and point the camera at things in front of me, because I'll tell you what, that saves me about 20 minutes on the ground filming the car, and it saves me about 40 minutes editing the video, because it takes a long time in putting all those little inserts. And when I'm generally editing these things about 11 o'clock the night before they go live, the more time I can save, the better. And this is also a good time to talk about equipment. Right now, you are being filmed on a Nikon Z6 II. This is the first time I've used the Z6 II for anything, because it only arrived in the post about 2 days ago. Up until now, I've been using a Z6. I've been a Nikon user for a long time, probably since the mid-1990s actually, when I moved over from Minolta. And there's a slight irony here, because most people doing video are now moving over to Sony. If I'd stuck with Minolta, I would have a bag full of lenses that would currently work on the Alpha series. As it is though, I moved over to Nikon because the company I was working for were all Nikon, and so I could borrow their lenses, and I've stuck with it ever since. The Z6 is a great camera for video because it can film 4K. It can actually film 6K if you've got an external monitor to record on. And I can convert all my old Nikon lenses for still photography and use it on there. I still have Nikon DSLRs as well. One less so, because the reason I've got that Z6 II is because in January there was a massive trade-in deal if you chopped in an old Nikon body. So I did. Anyway, so now this has got better face tracking, twice the number of processors, and better focus. So hopefully you will not see quite so much of the face drifting and stuff not being in focus and picking up on the wrong things in the shot as we have done in the past. I'm hoping the Z6 II is going to be amazing. Then with the lenses, most of what I film is on this lens, which is the 24-70, basically the kit lens, because it's really small, really light, it's a good range, and it's really nice quality as well actually. It's surprisingly good for a kit lens, and of course it has got a polarizing filter, because you always use polarizing filters for filming cars. The camera you're watching on right now, that's got the wide angle of 14-30 f4. The first lenses that Nikon brought out for the Z range of cameras, these things, were all the f4, not quite as fast as the f2.8 full pro lenses. So it's a funny way of introducing a system where basically professional people were going to be buying them, because they didn't bring the f2.8 pro lenses out straight away. I don't know why they didn't do that. I'm going to put the engine on, quit misting up. Then, so that's these two lenses that I use most of the time. I do have a very, very fast f1.4 lens, which is also handy for details, but don't always use that because often I'm working against the clock. Now when I started the channel, because I was already a Nikon user with DSLRs, that's what I started using. Initially I was using my D750, but I then found that there was a problem with the audio on that camera, so I moved on briefly to my Nikon D5. And if you're familiar with cameras, a Nikon D5 is a proper serious workhorse stills camera. It's just astounding quality for still photography, and it shoots in 4K, but there's a lot of limitations to shooting video on that camera. For example, it won't track focus, or you won't even autofocus once the camera is started recording, so you can't change the focus easily, and it's massive, so sticking it on the front of a camera on a mount is not going to happen. I will just show you the camera you're filming on right now, the Z6 II with the 14-30, and you'll notice that a big sucker on the window, that's a Manfrotto elbow mounted onto, I forget what brand it is, it's a slightly stronger sucker than a Manfrotto. So yeah, that's the cameras. But then when I found neither of the Nikons were cutting it, I moved briefly over to a Fuji X-T20. Now, Fuji's are lovely cameras for stills photography, but they're very much more of an art photographer's camera, I find, because the focusing again is a bit slow and a bit chunky. The video is very good quality and the lenses are just sublime, but it's got a tiny microphone jack, much smaller than anything else, so you have to use these adapters which break all the time, so I was carrying a bag of microphone adapters. So I didn't use that one for very long because it was just driving me absolutely crazy. Then when I was just contemplating what to do, I didn't know whether to jump ship fully to Sony or to Canon. Canon have really come on strong in the last, well, since the R5 and the R6 have come out. I was really seriously questioning whether to stay with Nikon this year. Anyway, so that's where the cameras are. So when the Z6 came out, bought one of those. Then we come to microphones. Now, audio audio is the biggest minefield of all. When I first started off, I had a big shotgun microphone. I'll show you a cutaway of it right now. Very, very big, very chunky and good quality and everything. But compared to a small camera, it's ridiculous. It overweighs the camera. On the Fuji, you could see it in the shot. It's so big. So I bought this little thing. And this is what a lot of bloggers use, but I've never really been happy, because if you're looking right at it and you get the angle exactly correct, it sounds quite good. But as soon as you move the camera away, you lose the audio completely. So that I had to give up on. Then I bought into the Wireless Go system from Rode, which is a great little thing with a built-in microphone. The built-in microphone is good, but I was using a lavalier mic, which was great until we started getting a problem middle of last year, where lots of crackles started coming into the videos on the audio, and I couldn't work out where it's coming from. Eventually I figured out it was kind of a socket where you plug a microphone into the Wireless Go, which is when we moved on to these things, which are Sennheiser wireless microphones. So yeah, we've chucked a bit of money into the audio side of things over the last couple of years. And of course, then we have the GoPros. I've been upgrading GoPros one at a time over the last couple of years. The problem is when you upgrade one GoPro, the others start to look a bit old in terms of the video footage they're producing. So I've had to upgrade. I think I'm on a couple of 5s and a 7 at the moment. They're very good because they're nice and tough, they're waterproof, you can do an awful lot of things with them, and yeah, they liven up the footage. I'd like to do more car-to-car stuff, but you need a second car and a third person or a second person to do that, so it adds complication which isn't always available. So if I can do it, I do. Likewise, drone footage. I am a licensed drone pilot, so I'm allowed to do commercial drone photography, but again, you have to be in the right space for airspace, you have to have a second driver for action shots. It's yeah, lots of other fun stuff. Right, then we get to the driving, so let's get back on the road. Of course, before we get on the road, the most important thing to take on any shoot is your Furious Driving coffee cup, so we can test the T-shelf. These are available in the Redbubble store, where I'm currently still selling my merchandise and things. I'm not sure how much longer we're sticking with those guys, but for the moment I am, and this is a good cup. Likewise, your Furious Driving hat is also an essential item. Oh, that's more sideways than I was expecting. So yeah, then we get on the road and talk about the car, the way it drives, the handling dynamics, everything else about the thing. For this point, I will try and have memorized as much information as possible. I still have the notebook, so when I move around the GoPros and stop every now and then, I can have a quick refresh of the memory. But mostly I do try and remember most of what I'm saying. And obviously I'm mostly talking about the car as I find it. But this is a great car park, I never knew it was here. I'll definitely be coming up on mine, that's mega slippery. Tyres are now filling with ice between the treads, so it's getting a little bit more slippery than I was hoping for. But then, when I get home, I've got to edit it all. And when I get back, I've generally got, well, normally only one camera. I don't normally take two Z6s on a shoot, but I will now, because that'll give me a bit more opportunity to get different angles and things. But I've got the one main camera, I've got the 3 GoPros, sometimes I've got the drone as well, so generally I've got about 7 or 8 gigabytes of footage to deal with. So that all gets dumped into Final Cut Pro, and I try and film the thing in the order you see it as much as possible. I know that's not how it's generally done in TV terms, but as I'm working on my own, it does save an awful lot of time when it comes to editing, because I can generally put things down chronologically and then drop the B-roll over the top of it, the GoPro and all the cutaway detail shots, that kind of thing. Man, this is getting really slippery out, even with the winter tyres. You can really feel the slushy slipperiness. And then I publish it. And uploading takes a long time, because generally these videos are about 1 to 2 gigabytes in size. That's a lot of data to shuffle up through the internet. And of course, having uploaded it, then I have to add all the keywords, the description, make a thumbnail for the thing, which all takes a surprisingly large amount of time. There is one thing I often get comments on is, are you really awake at 5 AM every Friday? The answer is no, I am not. I schedule these things to come up to try and catch people. The problem is, sometimes I leave stuff uploading overnight, and you can add most things to a video during the upload process, but sometimes I do forget specific details, like if I've not put in a link to something I've mentioned in the video. It's generally because I've put it up at midnight and I've just forgotten at the last minute, and then once it's finished uploading I can go back and do it. Because things like all the in-video links, the cards we call it, that go in the top corner that appear sometimes, and the end screen that suggests other videos, you can't add any of that stuff until the video is finished loading and processing, which takes a long time. So sometimes you'll see a video, and if you're one of the first viewers to watch a video, you might comment, where was such and such a link? It's because I just haven't gone back in to do it yet. That's basically how I video myself. Now, the thing to remember is I'm doing this all on my own. There is no one behind the camera. There is no one on the audio monitoring the sound as I'm talking. There's no one standing behind the camera to drive past shots. Often the camera is just left on a tripod beside the road. I'm just hoping no one steals it while I'm turning the car around. So everything is me. If something's not in shot properly, it's because I'm on my own. If something doesn't sound good, it's because there was no one listening to the audio coming through the camera whilst it was recording. So yeah, these are the limitations of doing everything yourself. We've got a few more minutes while I'm driving back, enjoying the snow. So people do often ask where the channel came from, and that's quite an interesting story. The channel is actually quite old, but it didn't actually become the channel it is now until about 2 years ago. I used to go and do reviews of cars for sale at garages for classic car magazines. I still do sometimes. As a freelancer, you do all kinds of funny jobs, odds and sods, things that fit in around other stuff, just to kind of, fill the week with work. And this is one I actually really enjoyed, because you go to garages, the guys at the garages are always really great fun, the cars are great, so you get to drive lots of interesting cars. So it's a perk as much as a job, really. But doing this, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to bung a couple of GoPros on there, because I had some GoPros for work anyway, and not bother talking about the car, just show the car going for a drive, which is where the name Goes For A Drive comes from. And so you'll find quite a lot of older videos which is just me driving a car, not talking about any of the car's history. And I was happy to do that. Got monetized, and I was making virtually no money off it, but a couple of pounds, enough to buy a round at the pub on a Friday night once a month, that kind of thing. Or go and buy a couple of CDs. Not big money, but certainly a little bit of pocket money. And it made it all just a bit more fun, really. Anyway, about 2 years ago, there was a thing that got called the YouTube apocalypse, where they changed the rules of YouTube, where you weren't allowed to be monetized unless you had 1,000 subscribers and a minimum of 4,000 watch hours in the last 12 months. Or was it 6 months? It's quite a lot. I had the watch time because I had that video of the Kia factory in Slovakia, which is my most watched video by a massive margin. It's over 1 million views. It's amazing. So that gave him a watch time, but I was down to about 400 or so subscribers, because it was just a tiny channel, not really doing a lot. And I had to make a decision at that point. Was I going to stop bothering doing any YouTube at all, because never really bother again, or make a go of it? And I decided to make a go of it, because working in the magazine industry, which is kind of my first love, newspapers, magazines, actually taking still photos is what I love doing. But you only have to look at the sales figures of newspapers and the way things have diminished a bit with magazines as well. So let's get online, so I can keep on taking photos, but at the same time be part of the future. So anyway, I decided I had to make a go of it. So for the first time, I stuck a camera in a car and reviewed a car, and I reviewed my Rover 2000, which is like the first proper review on the channel. And looking back, it's pretty terrible, because I'd never spoken to the camera before like that, and the microphone was awful, so it's terrible sound, and I was using the wrong camera for the job, and everything was just a bit of a lash up. But I knew the subject, so that was an important thing, and I clearly like the car a lot. I've had the car for many years, and so that was all good. So that's where it started. And then also I've been doing diary pieces on my own cars in car magazines for years and years as well. But that had gradually stopped being paid for as much. It used to be quite not lucrative exactly, but certainly it would pay for keeping the cars going. And it gradually got less and less money. But I had to go and get myself back to my 1,000 subscribers, so I had to floor the accelerator of YouTube And that's when, yeah, things took off. And in the last year, when the pandemic struck, a lot of time I couldn't go to work to do my regular photographic work. I did do actually quite an interesting amount of other stuff, so not magazine type shoots, but doing studio type photography. It was quite fun doing that. I've just built effectively a studio at home, so lost in the living room to a photographic studio, and I was doing like product photos for a couple of companies through a lot of the lockdown. That was quite fun. And also some building architectural work. I really am quite interested in architecture, so that was quite fun to do some architectural work, exteriors only at the moment, but obviously when the world is different again, interiors again. But for the last year, YouTube became very much my main job, and so the YouTube channel has continued to grow and grow. So there you go. That is a peek behind the curtains of Furious Driving. That's how the videos come together, and where the channel came from. Hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully be able to get back out and do some driving of cars very soon, because I want to be reviewing more cars and filling your week with interesting videos. Meanwhile, plans for the channel at home in terms of the tinkering videos, which everyone is keen on. I'm very keen on myself. Is, well, obviously get the cars finished, build a carport. I've kind of drawn up plans to build a carport over where the Mercedes and currently the Alfa, but normally the Quentin, the convertible, sit, so I can keep those cars dry and work on them through the year. And I am looking really hard to try and find some kind of unit or barn or something to keep the cars indoors, keep them dry, and so I can again work throughout the year on cars, because today going outside to do any work is not really going to be feasible. As hopefully restrictions on travel lift, we will start to get the road trips, the adventures, the challenges back online as we had planned for 2020. Because don't forget the big Volvo, that was bought for a cheap car challenge, which never happened. So maybe we can still do that again this year, perhaps, I hope, and get some driving adventures. I'm kind of jealous when I look at channels like Vice Grip Garage and Derek goes off and buys who knows what out of a junkyard, makes it start, and road trips it home. We're kind of restricted on doing that at the moment. It's stuff I would like to be doing, but just at the moment can't. Anyway, right, next time, oh gosh, that Peugeot appears to have burnt out. Let's burn a car in the snow. Right, enjoy the day everybody, and I'll see you again next time with hopefully something more regular for you. Or some different stuff, I don't know, we'll see what happens. Take care everyone, I'll see you soon.